Hey guys, salut mes amis och hallå gubbar, Maxim here. This video is a very special one since I was invited to playtest Riot Games' latest FPS title, Valorant. In this video, I'll talk about the game and compare it with CSGO. Keep in mind that this game is still a work in progress and many of the things you will see in this video may come to change. To start off with the general stuff, it is planned to launch this summer to almost every region. There is a closed beta coming up and the game is going to be free to play. It is very similar to CSGO. Therefore, it makes sense to compare them both. In Valorant, you play 5v5 defusal mode, best of 24 rounds instead of 30, which means you need 13 rounds instead of 16 to win the game. Instead of CT and T, the teams are simply called defenders and attackers. A round is 1 minute and 40 seconds instead of 1 minute and 55 seconds. However, instead of a freeze time, which is normally 15 seconds in matchmaking, you have a so-called buy phase. During this phase, you can obviously open up the buy menu, but also position yourself further up the map until you get to the barriers. When the timer runs out, the barriers will disappear, and that's when the round starts. Because of the barriers, the timings on the map are always the same. In CSGO, if you get a mid-spawn for example, you could use it to your advantage, whereas here, it's more generalized. This is the bomb. It's called the spike, and it behaves just like the C4 does in CSGO, except that it's spawned in front of all the players. This means that anyone can choose to pick it up. Also, if you have defused the spike at least halfway, you can exit and redefuse to the halfway points so you don't start from the beginning. There will be 4 maps at launch, but the 2 that I played, called Bind and Haven, have very unique layout features. On the map Bind, you have one-way portals for quick rotations, for fake executes, for flanking enemies, but you make a sound cue when going through them. And on Haven, you have 3 bomb sites instead of 2. I went into these maps thinking it would feel totally different from a regular CSGO map. It actually felt pretty much the same, but with some obvious new rules. Looking at the visuals, you can clearly see that they've decided not to go for realism, but instead focus on clarity from its Pixar-looking art style. I think this makes the game look more childish compared to CSGO, where it definitely feels more raw and gritty. I'm not saying that it looks bad, but some players from the CSGO community may find it hard to take seriously. Most areas on the maps are clean and there's less details on the walls where players can be. It is intentionally done this way to easier spot other players. Plus, enemies are made to be a bit more red so they stand out from the terrain. I haven't had a single issue of not seeing someone when I should be able to see them, which has happened many times in CSGO. The audio, as I expected, focuses on clear sound cues with background noises or ambience just like CSGO. You are still silent when shift walking or crouching, but when players are running around, you can hear their footsteps loud and clear. CSGO can sometimes be unreliable when it comes to picking up sound and trying to locate where it comes from. This is honestly one of the biggest flaws and something that can be really frustrating. During the playtest, it was easier for me to pinpoint where the sound cues were coming from, which is a big plus. Another cool add-on to the game is the voiceover to tell you certain valuable information when you have tunnel vision. Like, for example, how much time there's left of the round,
10 seconds left,
or if the team forgot the spike in spawn.
And the spike's still in base.
Even though we were informed that the build we were playing on did not have the latest optimizations, the performance of the game during my playtest has been very smooth. If we mean higher FPS than CSGO, then the answer is no. I can still get higher FPS in CSGO on the highest settings, but I can also get really low FPS in CSGO, and that is the deal breaker. I was using the highest settings except for anti-aliasing set to none, and my average in-game with 10 players was roughly 170 FPS. Highest came to about 300, and I never went under 100. My game felt very responsive throughout the entire playtest, and there were no stutter issues or major hiccups, which you all know by now can get seriously annoying in CSGO. Alright, how is the movement? Based off this playtest, both movement speed and acceleration was nearly identical, but Peeker's advantage felt much less effective here, which is probably because of the precise gameplay optimizations. Getting tagged will also slow you down a lot more than CSGO, which makes jiggle peeking a lot less rewarding. This also makes it a lot more challenging to push or peek players. The game also has air acceleration, so strafing is possible, and you can improve your travel distance. Jumping works the same way. You can jump plus crouch to get higher up, and it seems like crouching right before jumping makes no sound. Bunny hopping is possible as well, but it's capped aggressively so that it's pretty much useless for medium to long range distances. Almost like CSGO. When trying to boost, you will simply slide off. When it comes to ladders, there really isn't anything like that, but I did notice a few zip lines on the practice map, which may be hinting at what we'll see in the other two maps. Speaking of the practice map, it is actually a dedicated place for you to explore and help you practice. This warm-up area reminds me a lot of the workshop maps that you can find online. There's also a spike and diffuse simulation, there's even a KZ course, and some other smaller stuff that you can do. Compared to CSGO's official weapon course, this has more of everything. The recoil accuracy and all that is also very similar to CSGO. Moving and shooting triggers inaccuracy, as you would expect. Crouching is slightly better for your accuracy, and you can sort of learn the spray pattern. Wall banging is said to be very effective in this game, and RIOT are encouraging it. I basically played the game as if I was playing CSGO 80% of the time, and my skill was converted quite well. The weapons are also very much like CSGO's weapons, and most of them will one-hit kill with a headshot. Something I really liked is that every single gun felt viable and balanced, compared to some weapons like the Krieg in CSGO. Both teams will be able to access all the guns. Going through each weapon would take a while. Besides, there might be changes to them when the game launches. One thing I can say really quickly though, is that you'll notice how most come with a zoom or a secondary attack. You can also buy two versions of Kevlar, light and heavy shield, which will block 50% of the damage until it breaks. Now to the biggest difference between both of the games, the so-called agents. At launch, there will be around 10 different agents, and they all have unique abilities. Before a game starts, you have to pick an agent that you want to play with during the entire game. RIOT seems determined to keep it this way, so you won't be able to swap agents mid-game. The abilities are best described as nades in CSGO, but with way more variety. They are designed to complement the gameplay and not overpower it. They also behave just like nades, which means you can't shoot someone with a gun while having them up. It's also possible to play the game without abilities just like it is with nades, but it's definitely harder. It's not as OP as you might think, and most abilities have counters. I would have to say that the abilities give more depth to the gameplay without ruining it, but there was a lot of smoke related abilities, so it had potential of becoming very messy sometimes. All agents have 4 abilities. One of them is an ultimate, which needs to be charged before it can be used. The ultimate gets recharged after a kill, a death, a plant, a defuse, or by an orb capture. Orbs will be found on the maps. One of your abilities will always be available each round for free, and they usually come close to the same price as utility in CSGO. If you buy the abilities, but you don't use them for the round, you can still use them for the following rounds, except for when you're switching sides. Therefore, spending money on abilities can be a good investment. In CSGO, I'm used to having the utility that I want to use. But here you are locked with the agent's 4 abilities. I also never used some of the abilities because I had problems adapting them to my playstyle. But overall, it's really cool that you can combine certain abilities from teammates to create some really cool executes. The economy system is, you guessed it, very similar to CSGO, but biggest difference being you can actually see the enemy team's money and ultimates at the start, so you can better plan out how you want to play the round. And the buy menu also has some very cool features. If you need a drop, You can request one by right-clicking on it, then someone can buy it for you. And if your team decides to eco, but someone already bought, they can sell it back. These are definitely some lacking features in CSGO. Since the game will be free to play, you will be able to unlock skins and also agents through the in-game currency called Valorant points, or in short, VP. 5 of the agents will be unlocked for everyone to use in the beginning. Therefore, you will need to spend VPs to unlock further desired agents. Riot believes that this will not be a problem for the competitive environment, since this is what they're doing for League of Legends. Riot is also promoting the use of 128-tick servers, and you need to have Vanguard installed in order to play, which is Riot's anti-cheat system. Now, I obviously have no idea of how effective their anti-cheat will be, but I really like the fact that it cancels the game you're playing if someone is spotted cheating. Something else very different from CSGO is that all the servers will only be operated by Riot. This means that community servers will not be possible, which is a big reason for CSGO's success. However, you will be able to play custom games, which is like a private match between 10 players. Overall, the game felt polished, well optimized, and it's got lots of potential to become a successful esports title. It's clear to me that they're trying to improve on the idea and concept of a competitive FPS title such as CSGO. Now to the biggest question, is it fun to play? The answer is yes. I enjoyed every game I played, and I never had a dull moment. It's really hard, however, to compare how fun it is to CSGO, especially since we played in this closed environment, but I was getting adrenaline rushes after multiple kills, and I could also get mad when something went wrong. Ranked games will be tested during the closed beta, so that's going to be exciting. Because this game has such potential, it's going to pressure Valve, so that's going to be interesting to see. Will I be moving on to Valorant after the game launches? It's way too early to tell. I'll have to feel it out when the time comes. If you have any further questions, I'll try to answer them as best as possible, and if I get any more information, I'll put it in the video description. Please give this video a like if you want to support my content, and I'll see you guys soon. Stay awesome and go bananas.